Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rankhorn.
And I'm Kim Crubley, and together we are Counselor Accents.
And Kim, I just want to apologize. I feel like we're constantly apologizing to our audience, and usually it's because of you. But once again, I want to apologize to our audience because you are sitting in your car and you have your video turned off because last I checked, your battery was running low.
I decided that I would do an autograph session at the local coffee shop.
Oh.
So I set up a booth. And it just said School Counselor of the Year for the state of Alabama. And I received...
Is your wrist sore? Okay.
Yeah.
Your wrist was sore from signing autographs.
That was a bust. But but anyway, I'm headed back. Try again. I will not be deterred. Is deterred a word?
Well, there's deterred.
No, you are deterred.
I knew when I had that pause.
I will not be deterred.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I'm School Counselor of the Year.
That's it. Well, Alabama, you chose wisely. I hope you're happy.
Too late now.
I can see it now. Sean Stevens is calling your phone saying, hey, we're going to need that trophy back.
Hey, look, if you could just give us the plaque back, I think we could scratch your name out. Oh, gosh.
So this today is one of those episodes. It's a serious topic. So I'm actually really embarrassed that you opened up this way. But, we had a discussion this week about things that run into the eye of the storm or things.
Nay.
Okay.
Nay. I called you because I was moved to tears when someone likened me to a buffalo. Hold your tongue. Hold your tongue. I was offended too at first until they finished with a buffalo always runs into the storm. And I thought, wow, I'm going to call Laura. She'll be moved to tears. And so I said, Laura, we as school counselors are like buffalo, the great bison. We run into the storm. And instead of being moved as I was and meditating on that, you became defensive and said, no, we're like a firefighter and we run into the fire.
Okay, I'd like to tell this from my perspective, how it went down.
I would love to hear it.
First of all, you called me midday, and as you all know, Kim and I are in the trenches with you. We're both every day working as school counselors. So I was up to my eyeballs in school counselor stuff like girl drama and DHR reports and all of the things that we do on a daily basis. So you called me when I'm in the thick of it. You told me the story about how the buffalo ride into the storm. They don't avoid the storm, they run into it. You said, what does that make you think of? And I heard your voice trembling, and I could see with my mind's eye your chin quivering. But I burst out laughing because, to me, it's the mean girls. The mean girls run into the storm where they don't have any place to be. If they see a storm happening, they run right directly into it where they don't belong. And you were like, no, dummy, it's the school counselors. They run into the storm. And we did argue for a bit. I said, no, I see us more like firefighters who run into the burning building to rescue people. So we saw it two different ways.
We did. And just know that although we say we can't get our feelings hurt, the buffalo incident,
turns out buffalo have very sensitive feelings, and you got yours trampled on.
Ferdinand the buffalo got his feelings hurt. And I went back to the teacher who had called me a buffalo. And I said, what do you mean by that? Just what did you mean by that? Anyway, you ruined it for me. Laura, we're going to be talking about something today that you and I have bandied back and forth enough.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What do we do? What do we, because we know this is an issue. And I just feel like this is going to be an answer to what our kids are exposed to.
You broke up a little bit in that.
And I'm excited about this.
Yes.
No, I had a hiccup.
Oh, okay.
I will not call it a belch. It was a hiccup. It just was a hiccup.
I didn't say belch. I
had a Java chiller. That is causing my heart rate. That is like a drink that is got a lot of coffee and it's cold and it's making my heart rate go crazy.
Yikes.
But I'm preparing for testing already. Yeah. I am preparing for testing at the end of the year. So that's what I've been doing all day long. Anyway, back to what our guest is today. I'm very excited, Laura. Thank you for this. This is a coup for you.
Thank you. So I think what you were saying is this is going to help us do our research to take the next steps in keeping our students safe and informing our families about what dangers are out there, because as you'll hear in this episode, some parents are unaware, some parents choose to be unaware, and it's our job to sound the alarm and notify people of the dangers that are truly out there. Because once things happen, whether it's your child is contacted by a predator, whether it's your child participates in self-harm, once those things happen, it is too late. So our goal is to be proactive. And I believe that our guest is going to share ways that her company is being proactive in helping us identify these dangers and inform. Identifying is just part of it, but we have to inform people about the dangers.
And Laura, let me just say, as far as this program, we're getting no kickback. This is not anything that we are making any money off of. This is just a way. This is a product that's free for schools, and so we just are trying to get that information out because it is a problem. So we're looking at ways to solve it.
Yes, we contacted Bark because we have been having this conversation for quite a while about, hey, this is what we're seeing. We are doing this every day, so we see the real things that our students are dealing with. And so after several incidents that you and I shared back and forth, we said, we've got to do something. We've got to,
absolutely.
We can't be the only ones that are seeing this. And so we thought we've got to inform our listeners. We've got to equip our listeners, empower our listeners with some steps, rubber meets the road steps that they can take.
Yeah.
So we started doing some research on who we could bring on. We compared a couple of different internet safety companies, and Bark stood out. And I know there are wonderful things about others, and you may know of one and you may be using that one. But Bark stood out to us, and we contacted them, and they were gracious enough to put us in contact with someone that speaks in schools and for schools and all this stuff. So this is going to be a great episode. Let's get to it. Kim, we have a very special guest with us today. Her name is Titania Jordan, and she is from the company Bark, which I'm sure that you guys have seen. You guys are kind of a front runner in internet safety. And so I see a lot of your ads, and you guys are active in schools and everything. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell a little bit about yourself and about the company Bark.
Sure. Well, thank you both so much for having me. It's an honor. I just want to apologize in advance if I sound like I have a cold. I do. So thank you for listening and watching anyway. What is Bark? Bark is technology that helps protect over 6 million children now across the nation and the globe, but primarily in the U.S. Our technology is used both in homes with families, on children's smartphones and tablets, their laptops, their home computers, and also in schools. And in fact, our tech is now used in over 3,000 districts across the nation. And so what is it? What is the tech? What it is artificial intelligence that is connecting to children's devices and accounts and looking for dangers. And it's not just looking for obvious keywords, but truly nuanced contextual analysis of dangers that live not only via text-based threats, but also images, video, audio, memes, text overlay, viral challenges on TikTok, you name it, we're analyzing. And then we're sending alerts with the problem and the best recommended next steps for how to address.
Wow. That is impressive. You guys are catching a lot then.
Well, that's what I wanted to really make sure everybody left today, if they left with nothing else, hearing the impact that we've had. Because it's one thing to launch a tech company, but it's another thing to have impact. And the fact that we are sending, right now around 100 severe self-harm alerts each day. We're sending alerts around children who aren't just struggling with depression, but are at that level of crisis where they're it's severe self-harm and suicidal ideation alerts. We have helped to escalate credible school shooting threats. We have caught online predators. The rate at which children are being cyberbullied and exposed to all kinds of problematic content. That's the impact, and that's what we're proud to be able to be making meaningful strides there.
So is Bark something that a parent can get a hold of for their home use, but then on a bigger level in a school, this is something that a school would use? And what are the biggest digital dangers you flag now with the schools that are using Bark?
Yeah. So yes, it is. We have a product for families, which is the revenue generating aspect of our business. And then we have our Give Back, which is our product that is free for any school in the nation. There is one aspect of our school's product that schools can upgrade to pay for 27,365 monitoring, because we know that unfortunately incidents are happening on school issued devices and accounts, but while the kids are not necessarily on campus. So that's another rabbit hole. But in terms of the biggest danger overall, it's mental health, and that encompasses a lot of different aspects of things, whether it's from a child being bullied, and so the danger is cyberbullying, but that leads to eating disorders or depression or suicidal ideation or drug and alcohol abuse. They all overlap. And so the danger is the fact that children have unfettered access to the entire world and vice versa, with little oversight, little monitoring, and the adults that are meant to care for them in real life aren't able to care for them in their digital realm.
Boy, that's so well said.
That's true.
And I love that this is a product for parents, because we can monitor at school.
Uh-oh, Kim's frozen. So I'm sure she was going to say that we can monitor from school, but then we send these kids home and we have zero control and zero knowledge of what they're actually doing at home. And that's scary.
It is scary. And before, what lived at school, what lived at home,
Right.
and there was less crossover. I won't say there was no, because those separate places do impact one another, but there was less. Now, everything's spilling over into one another. A child gets cyberbullied when they're at home via Snapchat, and then they don't want to go to school the next day. So it's affecting attendance, and just there's so much that is impacting our kids. And whether you're a counselor, a teacher, an administrator, or a parent, you don't know.
Right. And with some of these bullying laws that have been passed, it doesn't matter if it happens at home or at school. Once we are aware of it, we still have to take care of it. And so that's another area where you guys come in and can help with things like that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. for anyone listening to just Google the cyberbullying laws for your state, because they do vary and they are important to know. And yes, that's where Bark can play a role in helping to advocate if your child is the victim of cyberbullying, by providing evidence. Like, here, this is what happened, this is where it happened, this is when it happened, and we need to take action. I do want to footnote that, though, by saying sometimes your kid is the bully, right?
Such a
Good, yeah, good kids make bad choices. When you are a child, when you are a teenager, your frontal lobe of your brain is not fully formed. And so what we need to do is be understanding and give compassion to all children, whether they are the bully or the bullied, because hurt people. And there's a reason for that. And we need to really, really lean into empathy education so that kids can hopefully stop and think before they do something that is harmful to somebody else.
Yeah. So well said. And it's like you listen to our podcast, because I say that too, that hurt people. And it's not a chant. It's the way people are. Like, you're not saying hurt people. It is it's the way things happen. And so, that's our job as school counselors, is to get to the why behind what's actually happening. And then, like you said, bring in that empathy piece. Are you a school counselor? Because you're sure talking like one.
No, but maybe I will get to do that one day. I know that they are a great need for those of you doing that. So thank you. Thank you for being in that field.
You're speaking the language, so you're halfway there. So I am curious what advice you would give to school counselors who are identifying digital dangers, or for identifying those digital dangers.
Yeah, I would say, I know it's hard. It's so hard being in the school environment today. There's a lot that you can't do. But one thing you can do is educate the parents, honestly. So many parents don't realize what is happening with kids today. A lot of parents don't realize just how prevalent sexting is, or how prevalent mental health issues are. They think, not my kid, or my kid would never, or if my kid is involved in something, I'll know. I'll be able to pick up on it. They'll tell me. And you and I and a lot of people listening realize, like, that's, it's not the case. And so it's education. I would love it if my son, who's in 8th grade, if his school counselor would hold a session for parents and say, hey, without naming names, without identifying any of your children specifically, here's what we're seeing. This many kids have been involved in this sort of situation. These are the things that are really impacting your children negatively. These are the things that are working in terms of positivity. Like, educate us, because we don't know. Some of us have never been parents before. And so I think it starts with education. And once we can realize what the heck is happening with our kids and in these phones, we can start to be better parents to them, be more compassionate, and lead them well. Yeah.
That's so.
Let me join in really quickly on that, because my mind went straight to, that's an easy online training, or have parents sign up and come into the school of training. And you may have already addressed this while I was on hiatus while y'all were talking. Is there any materials that you would suggest when you're training parents? Is there something that you could share with that would be helpful when we did train parents?
Yes, depending on the grade range, there is a free resource. It's a documentary about growing up in the digital age. It's called Childhood 2.0, and it's free for anybody who wants to watch it. You can hold a free screening for your families and say, don't take my word for it. Here's what is happening with kids today. And you hear from kids themselves, and, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way up. You hear from them and what's happening in their world. And it's really eye-opening. So I definitely recommend the Childhood 2.0 documentary. I'm happy to come speak to any parent group anytime, either in real life over Zoom. There's a lot of wonderful parenting in a tech world type speakers out there. Another one that comes to mind is Chris McKenna of Protect Young Eyes. He is a wonderful resource, and dad who's working hard in this space to educate families. But yeah, there's plenty of resources. One of the biggest problems is getting the time of parents. We are all so busy. To try to get us to come to anything anytime. Getting attendance anywhere is hard, but perhaps around, right after school drop off, right before school drop off, right after school pickup, an evening, serve food. People love food.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
something about this, I feel like this is such an important topic. Parents are looking for advice. And like you said, some people have never been parents before, but I say every kid is different. You could be a parent of 12 kids and every single one of them will have different experiences. So I think parents would welcome this, like you said.
Yeah, what they want to know is there hope? Like, has the ship
Yeah.
sailed? Are
Yeah.
we just, are we just handcuffed by this whole thing with screens and social media? Or is there hope? Is there something we could actually do? Do we need to be overwhelmed? And the answer is yes, there is hope. Is it going to be easy and quick like a Band-Aid? No, but that doesn't mean you give up. It's just a whole new world that we're living in. I also dropped a link to a Facebook group called Parenting in a Tech World, which has close to like 240,000 parents in it. And that way, if you can't attend a parent night, and if you aren't able to reach your school counselor or pediatrician or therapist, and you really just need to talk to other parents ASAP, it's a great resource of parents talking about what it's like to be a parent in a tech world, and some really great support and solutions are there 24/7, 365.
That is very helpful. Can you tell us a little bit about how kids speak online in code? This is new information for me, so I'm interested in hearing more about this.
Yes. So when we were kids, we didn't have those fun things called emojis that could speak for us without words.
Right.
And now they do.
Mm.
And so one example that really tends to throw people for a loop is the pasta noodle emoji. So if you see a bowl of noodles, your child could totally be talking about, Italian night,
Mhm.
but they could also be referencing the sending or receiving of nude photos, because nudes sound like noodles.
Okay.
And that's just one example of many, many ways children use just emojis in ways that adults might not realize. There's so many examples. They can use a snowflake emoji to mean cocaine. They can use falling leaf emojis to mean marijuana. The eggplant emoji to symbolize male anatomy.
Sorry.
No problem. That really just emphasizes how, intense emojis can be. But, and it's not just emojis, it's abbreviations like KMS could stand for kill myself. Now, that's one thing that we're seeing a lot of that is just really heartbreaking. Kids are using the terminology, go kill yourself, or I'm going to go kill myself, almost in a throwaway way, a slang way, a casual way.
Mhm.
It's really not something to be casual about. It's not funny. It's not something that we should joke about, but we're seeing a lot of that and kids are using it. And so really, if you see something either through a bark alert or by looking through your child's phone, and it's some semblance of emojis or letters and you don't know what they mean, that's okay. But what you can do is go to Google, look it up. Google will tell you what it means. You can also go to the Bark blog, because we are constantly posting about what we've learned from our algorithms of just what kids are talking about and what the heck it means.
Wow.
I was just picking up images of students. We've had instances of students sending nude photos to one another or getting sent nude photos. Is it picking up more than just words, I guess? Is it
Oh, yes.
Learned when they're looking at pornography?
Yes, Bark will send alerts around sexual content that includes pornographic content consumed or created, and that does include images, nude images. What I will say is that when you get a Bark alert around sexting, for example, what we're not going to do is show you the image of the minor, um, because that would be perpetuating the cycle of online child sexual abuse material. So you'll get an alert that it happened, but we're not going to be traumatizing you or perpetuating that abuse by forwarding that information. But yes, Bark does flag for all of those sort of things.
That's really good. That's been a concern of mine with other programs that we've known about, just that somebody's sitting in a room and having to filter through these. And so I love that you guys think about that step as well, and you're protecting other people. That's really good.
Yeah, we like to let our algorithms do that, the detecting, and then we'll do the alerting, and sometimes the escalating to law enforcement or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, because they have the proper bandwidth and protocol for dealing with that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm curious what apps and video games, what's out there right now that you guys are seeing that are concerning that maybe parents don't know about?
Yeah. By now, I would assume most parents have heard of TikTok. Like, if you have not, you have been living under a rock, and that's cool. Maybe it's a cool rock. That's great. But you should know that if your child is on TikTok or talking about TikTok, it's not just fun dance videos or, cooking challenges. There's a lot of darkness that takes place on that app. And because it is an app that generates revenue based on the time spent on the app, it wants to keep your child on it as long as possible. So it's going to continue to serve your child the things it thinks your child is most interested in. Sometimes those can lead to dark rabbit holes around violence or eating disorders or depression, anxiety, even misinformation. And so just know that no matter what app it is, whether it's TikTok, Snapchat, anything, the next thing that comes along, if your child's on it and you are not, that's the first problem. You need to have downloaded and spent some time on the digital spaces your children have been, so that you can look at it with your adult wisdom and lens to help guide them. Another app that is really popular with kids right now that a lot of parents maybe haven't heard of is Discord. Discord made its mark being popular in the gaming community, which a lot of kids are into gaming, which is great. But particularly within Discord is the ability to chat with anybody, even live chat, video chat. You can send media, videos, images, etc. And so basically any app, no matter what it's marketed as being able to do, it's going to continue to develop features that make it competitive with other apps. So the ability to chat live, FaceTime live, all of those things. These apps have so many capabilities. They have vaults, like Snapchat has the for your eyes only place where you hide things. Even now, on Apple devices, if you have the latest operating system, you can hide photos, and the only way that you can access those hidden photos is by facial recognition. So just so many layers.
It almost sounds overwhelming. I mean, it really feels overwhelming. And this is a conversation Laura and I've had so many times about if parents are just, they don't know what they don't know. And I think it's more that they have no idea what is available to their children, and what their children, whether they even want to see it or not. I mean, there are things that just pop up, and these kids are, and then we're dealing with their brains are just not developed enough to take in that information that they're seeing. And we had a guest on, Lauren, I don't remember who it was, and you may, but they said the pornographic images that when a student, because I've had a student in third grade who asked for help with his addiction to pornography. I mean, he came to me and he said, I need help. But these little ones who are addicted to pornography are displaying signs of a child that has been molested. And that is a powerful statement, that just being so exposed to that level of pornography and their brains are not ready, developed to handle that is like living in, or some level of being molested. And I thought that was just a really scary, I don't know what the research on that is, but it made sense to me. And what I can see with little ones who are exposed to that, it's not a happy place for those kids. I mean, it is a scary and overwhelming.
It is. And in fact, I referenced Chris McKenna of Protect Young Eyes, and he just recently posted in his Instagram stories about a child who was able to encounter problematic ads. The App Store showcased an app that was supposedly age friendly for his age, but within the app he downloaded were ads that popped up that were showing problematic sexual content and themes. So it really is like a game of whack-a-mole, and you fix one problem and another one creeps up, which is why your children, you need to have conversations with them about pornography much earlier than you might think that you need to, and in age appropriate ways. It's not comfortable, but if they're going to access a device, a connected device, the internet, it's really not a matter of if, but when they're going to encounter it. And it needs to be a conversation that is had without shame, right? Because, sex isn't a bad thing, and none of us would be on this planet, without it. But age appropriate sexual curiosity, calling body parts their actual anatomical names, and, consent and boundaries and what it does to your brain. All of these things, are now on our plate as adults to have conversations with their children about before they encounter it, because they're going to encounter it, because it's scary and overwhelming and addictive.
Really,
gosh, this is some really dark. This is a subject we go back and forth with, Laura, and we've talked about advocating at a more of a state level and national level as school counselors to offer protection for students. Is there any advice that you can give school counselors that may want to advocate against some of these, I guess,
yes,
agencies are I'm sure this is a money making thing for these folks, or they wouldn't be perpetuating this. So what's your advice if we wanted to do that on the political scene?
Yeah. So real quick, just because I never like to talk about problems without giving a tangible solution, I mentioned talking with your children in age appropriate ways about pornography. I just dropped in the chat a book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. Great resource for how to talk to your children about that topic. So I, make sure
fantastic.
Make sure it's in your school library. And well, if you can have it in your school library, but I think it's important to, at least for parents to check out.
Absolutely.
But in terms of it is more scalable level, at the legislative level, call your local representative. I know we're in election season. It's whoever gets in office, you call them and say, what are you doing to protect our kids online? What are you doing to hold social media companies accountable? What are you doing to make sure that when children access the internet, it's by default safe, instead of parents having to go in and toggle all these settings and filters just to make it safe?
That's good.
That's very good. That's an easy, really, it's time consuming, but that's an easy thing that we all need to be willing to do.
And it's bipartisan too. No matter how you voted, it's
Yeah.
it's bipartisan, so that's cool.
Well, and that's
Yeah, absolutely.
we're governed by the American School Counselor Association, and Kim and I always remind our listeners that ASCA says that we're leaders, not just in our school, not just in our community, but this would be taking it to a state level. And this is a great way to use that leadership that's in us to advocate for something that is so needed and, you know, equitable. Every kid needs it. And so I
And
would love to challenge our listeners to do just that.
and speak up too. I mean, y'all are the canaries in the coal mine. What are you seeing? You know, what is the majority of issues that come across your office every day? Is it 50% depression? Is it 75% depression? Is it sexting? Where are the problems? You know, when you dig down to it, did it happen on Snapchat? Did it happen on TikTok? Is it in a text thread? You know, everybody listening, surfacing what is happening is critical because our kids aren't telling us. And if you don't have bark, you don't know. We are completely ignorant, which means the legislators are completely ignorant. Y'all are on the front line.
Powerful, powerful what you're saying, because that's absolutely, you're right. And if we're very conscientious about the data that comes through to us and the problems and the roots of the problems, and then can share that information, that's right there at our fingertips. So that is a great a canary in the coal mine. That's exactly a great way to analogy. And we need to be singing like a canary, and we need to be doing that.
You really do. Before it ends up at the ER, you know what I mean? The way it gets to, you know, if a child shows up at the ER for either a successful or unsuccessful attempt, that's one data point. But there are so many smaller, more subtle signs that happen way before then. And that's where we need to be intervening.
Well, and that's what I love about
Absolutely.
one of the first things that you said, that you guys are flagging those things. And, you know, we hear about it. And what's so scary to me is that we usually hear about it after a student has, you know, we're depending on them to tell somebody, and that doesn't always happen. Or we catch it after it's happened. And that is, if that doesn't wake people up, and if that's not alarming, then I don't know what is. So I love that you guys are flagging these things, and you're proactive. You are proactive heroes is what you guys are.
Well, I will say thank you on behalf of the 130 people who work at Bark, because it takes an amazing team. But yeah, and another thing too is the what do you do? Let's say you are a child and you're struggling, you're a parent of a child who's struggling. To be in that position, to all of a sudden realize there is a problem. I don't know what to do. And there's only so much that y'all can do as counselors, right? You know, sometimes children need to go for inpatient therapy, and there's a lot of things that need to happen at home, whether it's with diet or medication, or there's just a lot of factors, right? And helping to educate families on what's involved, and helping to reduce the stigma around, here's what this looks like. Here's what happens when you call 988, the suicide hotline. Here's what happens if a nude photo of a child gets leaked. Here are the states in which it is a crime. You know, lean on your internet crimes against children detectives that exist in every state to come and talk to your parents as well. It's not a quick, fast, or easy road, but it's an important one, and we're all on it whether we like it or not. And so we need to start working together and surfacing the truth so that we can help these kids.
Such great. We always talk about rubber meets the road, steps that we can actually do, that we feel like, okay, when we turn this podcast off, we can do this. And you are giving us great steps that we can take to keep our kids safe, to educate our parents. This is such a great episode.
Advocate at a state level.
Yeah.
Our national level. I think that's something that we've talked about doing, Laura. And, you know, this may be the the push that we needed to do that, because we're making it more difficult than it is. We just need to take time to do that, and take the time as counselors to have that parent meeting, whether that be via Zoom, whether that be a breakfast, like we were saying, to have people come in, bring the food in, and they will come. And even if you don't have a lot, and this is such a powerful message, I think those parents would spread that. I mean, I think this would be something that we need to be experts on, so parents can check with us. And I'm so glad to have Bark that is educating us, and that this is, for a lot of people, this is new to hear. So this is exciting to get their information out.
One thing, and I don't know if there's a term for this or if you have seen this or not, but I have dealt with a lot of parents, and it seems like more recently, that when we explain, okay, this is what your child told me, this is what your child just told me that they're seeing online, that they're playing online, that they're talking to online, they will then say, oh, it's not bad. I looked at it, I screened it, it's fine. And it's like, I'm saying, no, your child has just told me what they're seeing. There was a video game that your avatar is trying to get someone to commit suicide on the screen. And so when I explained that the child had just told me that this is the point of the game, she was like, oh, it's not, it's harmless, it's not like that. And I mean, do you have advice for that? What do you say to that? And that has happened several times, not just that one incident. It's like, we just want to keep our head in the sand. Is it more comfortable? I don't know.
That's hard. That's really hard. Some parents just need a good shoulder shake, you know what I mean? And a wake up call. I think if a child is surfacing something to you that disturbs them, that is concerning to them, that they think you should know, that's something to look at. If they're not bringing it up, that's one thing. Maybe it is harmless. Maybe it's just it's a game that is made in poor taste. But if they're bringing it up, it's weighing on them. Mm-hmm. And whatever parents that didn't take that seriously, hopefully they will be listening to this and can maybe just stop and think again, and think just about the concept, right? There's media that we consume, video games, movies, books, music, whatever, that is uplifting, that helps us to learn and grow and connect and perpetuate positivity. And then there's the opposite, the negative, the dark, the dirty, and just, what camp does the media that your child is consuming fall into? Is it going to help them become a productive, happy, healthy adult or not? It's like, it doesn't need to be that hard.
Mm-hmm. That's very well said. And I think, Laura, to that, I think that a lot of our parents look back on their own youth, and they may have gone through cycles of dressing dark, or they may have gone through and watched, horror films. I don't think the parents, a lot of them are not aware of the level of depravity what they might have skimmed through and thought as part of growing up. I don't think they realize now the mental debilitating, just like I said, deprivation that is out there, that perpetuates suicide or killing, or or pornography, or whatever. In short, all of these things. I don't think that they realize this is next level. Maybe, because I don't think unless you've seen it that you really realize it's like a lobster being boiled. They don't really realize that this has happened over, especially, it's just kind of an uptick, I think, since, and maybe you can address this. Have you seen an uptick in this since the pandemic?
Yes. Because children are spending more time in front of screens, the rates at which they were encountering these issues around mental health, violence, suicidal ideation, etc., increased. You can walk into the room where your child is gaming, maybe see a few things that you don't love, but also might not think it's not a big deal. But I guarantee you, if you sit beside them for the solid 3 hours that they're on that game, you will see things that you will feel shocked about and think, how is this even allowed? I'm guilty of it. My son's probably gaming right now, and on games that I know I wouldn't have been allowed to play as a child, things that I don't love. And it's not easy. It's not easy. I want to reiterate that. I know what I know, and I make mistakes daily. Flip side, though, we talk about it. We talk about how what he's exposed to can desensitize him. And we have those conversations about whatever you put in your body, not only food, but in front of your eyeballs, and whatever you listen to, it influences you. It influences your mood and how you treat others.
Well said. And I think
great.
the word desensitize, I think what we have experienced again in the trenches with these students is that we are seeing childhood taken away from students, and that kids who, and this started probably 2 years ago, full on, I'm experiencing in lower elementary what I experienced in upper elementary, and then in upper elementary it may be what I was dealing with in middle school and high school. So it just seems like the level of what we consider childhood is just going down and down until, and that's so sad, that the span of that childhood is so short now. And I think it is just because they're so desensitized and been exposed to so much, that just that innocence and that the beauty of that childhood is so shortened. And it's just very sad when you see that.
Absolutely. And on that note, children, it'd be one thing if childhood was shortened, but also children became mature earlier and faster, mentally and physically. Children are still children for the same length of time. They're just having to deal with more mature themes at an earlier age when they're not capable of that. That they're not
absolutely.
That's the problem.
So well said. Absolutely. The brain is not ready to deal with these things, and we're throwing them at them, and it's like we're dressing up these, we're dressing it up like it's these little kids are children, and the clothes are just too big. They cannot handle this. And we have these conversations with parents all the time. And I think we're getting, as school counselors, at least I know I am, and I know Laura is, I think we're getting braver in what we're saying. It's almost like we used to not want to dip into your business on this, but now, because it's now in my business and it's in my world and it's affecting my students and the other students around them, that we're having to say, stop, turn it off. So I think we've been forced into areas that we've never had to be forced to talk about. I mean, just yesterday, again, reiterating with the parent, they're not ready for this level of horror. They're not ready. And the parent said, but I'm watching it with them. That was the difference. The deal was they stopped. The child did something else, and the parent said, I'm just participating now with them. And we couldn't wrap our head around that. That's a true story that happened yesterday. So,
but with Kim,
it's
what you're saying, where you're saying, we used to not dip our toes in this. We were kind of, what happens at school. That's one thing that you
absolutely
do. What happens at school and what happens at home are two separate things. But it's kind of like, the neighborhood rule. If I saw that your child was doing something and I didn't tell you, how upset would you be as a parent, And it's kind of the same thing that we as school counselors, when we're seeing this happen and we're seeing these things in the school, like, you really can't turn a blind eye when you know that this is going on and it's detrimental to the kid's health. we really have a responsibility to notify the parents
Absolutely.
in these things.
And there's
Yeah.
visible and invisible. When a child is being physically abused at home and they show up with bumps and bruises, you can't deny that.
Right.
But so many of the things that are happening to our children are mental. You are not going to know unless they're exhibiting signs in other ways. And we just don't have a clue, and we need to get familiar real quick.
Such powerful stuff. I mean, this is just a subject. I just feel like we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on this, because it's just a problem that we're dealing with constantly on a daily basis. Just today, I'm not at my school, but we had a student looking up something, and I was informed about it. And so it's really daily. It's really just daily. And I think my mind is, I think for my next step is to do some kind of parent training, or offer some kind of parent training. I think that's a good next step.
Yeah, I mean, how can these kids learn? I couldn't learn if I had this thing in my lap, hiding it in my hoodie. How can you learn? And that's what kids are at school to do, is to learn, not just academics, but interpersonal communication and relationships, how to treat each other. Schools should be a safe place. Home should be a safe place too, but school should be a safe place. And we need to help these parents figure out what the heck is going on, and then band together to help these kids. They need us. They need us so bad. And they're not going to tell us that they need us until it's too late.
So with Bark, if the school, you're going to offer a link, or we're going to put a link in here that a school representative that may hear this and says, I want to be a part, I want this in my school. So there's going to be a contact. They're going to talk to someone, and they'll walk them through the steps.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I am going to drop a link here. You can Google Bark for schools. You can Google Bark Technologies. But if you want to get the school product, you can go to bark.us/schools and connect your school's entire, district in a matter of minutes. It's that easy, and it's that powerful. I'm dropping a link here in our Zoom chat, bark.us/schools. Yeah, I mean, we hear so much feedback from school administrators as to how this has helped them, not only with their student body, but help them in their communication with parents of, hey, here's what's happening with your kid. And this happened on, the school issued Chromebook. Do they have a smartphone? You might want to, figure out what's happening on that too.
So for parents, is this like a you buy for a year? We have information. I guess if we can look at the brochure or whatever to pass out to parents, because I like what you said. If there's a problem, let's offer the solution. So here we could give the parents the information about Bark. They can look into it for their own personal home use.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to drop another link here, but you can go to bark.us. We offer a free 7-day trial. You can buy an annual membership. You can pay monthly. The cool thing about it is it's unlimited children, unlimited devices. So if you have 5 kids, you don't have to pay 5 times as much as a parent with 1 kid. So that's really cool for larger families. But yeah, just go to bark.us and get signed up. Another thing too that I want to mention, and I'm not saying this because I think more kids need more smartphones at earlier ages, but because we know that's the top thing on kids' list this holiday season, we decided to launch a smartphone. So we'll have a smartphone that's live in the next few weeks, so that if you are going to get your child a smartphone, whenever or for the holiday season, you can make sure to get them the safest option possible. So not only do we have a software for parents and schools, we now have a phone that gives parents complete control and can help them manage their child's digital world in just a much easier way?
I'd be afraid to parent without. My kids are grown, Laura. Yours are little.
They are.
But not. I'm not even old enough to have a phone yet. But I would be afraid to parent without some kind of alert and protection and helps.
Clark may see all the filters that I try to put on and say, what in the world? You're not letting them access anything. And you're right.
That's okay. Like, they will eventually. Don't stress. I will say, I have never, ever, ever heard a parent say, I waited too long. I waited too long to let my child have access to XYZ. And flip side, I've heard way too many parents, and I have felt this way myself. I gave it too soon. I let them have access too soon. I let them have this thing too soon. I wish I would have waited. So lean into your instincts. If they don't have access to anything, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And
Now-
what we remind parents all the time, they're not their friends, they're their parents. You can be a friend, but you are mainly their parent, and it's not easy. And you, like you said, lean into your instincts and don't let the tail wag the dog. You are the parent.
I love that. I'm writing that one down.
Gosh, this has been really good and inspiring because this has been on my mind. We're in the middle of all the things that we have to do at school counseling. And I feel like sometimes we're just chasing, we're on this gerbil wheel, and sometimes we're not able to stop and get to the root. And I feel like what we're talking about today is a root killer. We need to get into the root of why we see so much of these. So I think this was just absolutely inspiring and a call to action. I think some things that we can do. So I recently went to a training, and that's where my journey began on we're not doing enough, because I wasn't aware. This training as counselors and principals, we had to sit through it. We didn't have an option, but it was very hard to sit through because we had to actually kind of see some of the videos that kids are able to, and they're well-known singers, and I had no idea that it was perpetuating murder and violence and sexual content of that nature. It was just stuff that what the speaker said in the 80s. When I was growing up, they would have been arrested if they'd have put this stuff out. And I had no idea until we were forced to just sit there, and this is what your kids, and these are just popular, singers and in their videos. And I thought, God, I don't think parents know. I don't think parents, surely they don't know, because I didn't know. And I'm dealing with kids all the time, but I had no idea it was that level. So I can't imagine what all that you have seen and have found out and what you've been exposed to through all of this. But I'm so glad somebody's doing the job in protecting our kids.
It's hard. Thank you.
I know you feel bad. Thank you for coming on. Laura is dealing with an issue. We're not this unorganized. Generally, we're both on usually. We're usually not flip-flopping. She's not feeling good. We're going to let her off the hook because I don't feel like me and you would ever let her go. But I would love to stay in touch and let you know what, if we move forward with some action steps, we want to share them with you. And I would love to work with you more and hear from you more. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help. I'm here to educate, and I'm here to protect. So y'all let me know what you need from me, and let's help these kids and help these parents.
I appreciate it so much that you were willing to talk to us in general, but then especially coming on sick.
All good. I'm gonna go lay down now. Thank
Yes.
y'all so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
What a wealth of information.
What a wealth of information. So it just got my brain cells, my synapses a snapping. And, I just think that this is some actionable steps that we as school counselors can take. Training our parents.
Should take, will take.
nay, should, will. You know, just challenge everyone that's listening to this to, and let us know if you do, write that letter, make that call to the elected officials and say, this is what we're concerned about. And I loved Laura. Why are we that person to do that? Because we are the canary in the coal mine. We
Okay.
are.
I have never heard that phrase before, so I need you in all of your historical wisdom to explain canaries in the coal mines, because I want to use it, but I need to know why I'm using it.
Well, it's a perfect analogy, because if you worked in a coal mine, there would be no way for you to know if that coal mine was going to have a cave in. But that movement would be picked up before it happened by the canary, and it would sing. And that you would hope give some time for the coal miners to get to safety. So the canary would be in the coal mine to protect. So
that makes me
we're in the coal mine. We're in there with those kids. But if we're sitting on we're sitting on our information.
Yeah.
Then nobody knows what they don't know. So, we as school counselors have to be very careful about what we say. But if we're advocating for students and we're using our data to advocate and say, this is the uptick we're seeing in this, and this is what's happening here. We're using that data. And this is what I told her, and I don't know if you were on or off when I said this. This is getting to the root. I'm not saying this is the only root to her problem. This is one of the roots. So, a lot of times we're just band-aiding things and band-aiding issues with students when they're going right back and doing the thing that is causing their problems. So a lot of the parents don't know, they're not old, their brains aren't developed enough to monitor themselves. A lot of students just cannot monitor themselves. And so they're exposed to a lot of things that we need to be singing like a canary about and say, hey, are you aware that your child has access to this, this, and this? So it's a different age and it's changing fast. And I don't think even our young parents are aware, possibly.
I think you're right. And something you said reminded me, at the beginning of this school year, my principal had all of us teachers, staff members, choose one word that we could use for the year to just sort of guide us through the year. And my word that I chose was empowering, because, when I chose that word, I was thinking about the students, because how many times do they come in, and I do feel like we're sticking a Band-Aid on it. We're sticking a Band-Aid on it. So this year I have wanted to change my approach and empower them to find the solutions on their own, or to put things into practice.
Very good.
And so when you're talking about the parents, it's our job too, to empower the parents to not just stick their head in the sand, not just say those things like, oh, not my child, this will never happen to us, but to empower them to go search. And then if you find something, to know what to do and then how to stop it. And so our job as school counselors is to empower everybody.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said. Such a great, I don't know, this just got my blood going, and it's, I think this is just one of those things. This is a call to action, I think, that we as school counselors can respond to. Wonderful.
Yeah, we do a lot of course, we do an episode a week, but this is one of those that I feel like you need to share with people. You need to share with parents.
Mhm.
You need to share with your co-teachers, because this is a message that needs to get out. And let this scratch the surface of your action steps. But I think that this is one that you need to definitely listen to and share out. So,
and if your school doesn't have something in place that catches those, because it doesn't matter how careful you are as a school system, how great your teachers are, it's amazing how kids can maneuver around and do things that we're not aware of. And so having this as a free resource in your school, if you don't already have some kind of alert system in place, I mean, that's huge. That's a huge give back that they're giving to the community. So if your school doesn't have anything, this is a good opportunity to, or if they have something you're interested in, this is a free resource. So
Well,
check it
and
out.
it's one thing to have those resources at your school, to have those things in place, but some of the scariest calls and the scariest days have been when I've been on my way to school and gotten the phone call that at 2 a.m. something was flagged on one of my students' computers, and that because we had those things in place, they caught it and we were able to keep the kids
Yeah,
safe. And I know we both
absolutely.
have experiences like that and stories like that, but that's the importance of having these things, not just at school, but all the time. So,
Yep.
all right. Well, we're going to link everything in our show notes so you can go to some of those fantastic resources that she mentioned. And
Yeah.
look at the books that she talked about. And otherwise, any other closing words?
I don't want to let you go, but I
I
got no
know.
closing words.
All right. Well, you can follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook. You can watch these on YouTube and I think also Spotify now, and subscribe so that you'll know when more episodes are released.